Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of This Week in the World of Football. This is episode number 275 for December 20th, 2022. I'm your host, Randy Snow. On today's show, the college football bowl season is now underway, and a college player is granted a 9th year of eligibility by the NCAA. In this week's history lesson, we have part 5 of our conversation of the greatest offensive and defensive unit nicknames in football history. But I'm not here by myself. Across the table for me, as always, is my son Adam.
You know, I know this is supposed to be the season of good tiding and all the happy feelings and being nice, but I wanted to throw everybody at the grocery store into a giant pit and never let them out because, good Lord, the store changed the 25 items or less lane to an unlimited thing. So, of course, me with my 10 items trying to just get through the quick checkout lane before coming over here today. I had to wait an hour in line just to get my checkout stuff because everybody was in this line. I hate the holiday seasons for this fact alone. I just wish we could throw every single person with 25 items or more into just a giant pit and then just hose them all down. Like, they should all be ashamed of themselves. This was ridiculous. I'm coming in hot today. How are you?
Somebody's in a mood, I can tell.
Good Lord. Think how bad I'd be if the Lions lost this week, too.
Oh, yeah, I don't even want to think
or
about
if my
that.
team allowed the biggest comeback of all time. Good Lord, I need a beer. All right, let's do this. Root beer, that is.
We come to you each week from the fabulous World of Football Man Cave, located right here in the center of the football world, Kalamazoo, Michigan. We're here to promote the game of football in all its many forms, past, present, and future. Our goal is to educate, inform, and entertain our listeners with the glorious buffet that is the world of football. All this while keeping a close eye on the rich history of the game. Thanks for checking out our podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on one of our many platforms: Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube, where we post the entire audio portion of the show, as well as other selected videos. So let's begin today's show with Adam and the World of Football scoreboard.
When it is looked back upon in the annals of history, I believe the NFL's 2022 season, Week 15, will be looked upon as one of the craziest, most insane weeks of NFL football that has ever been played.
I cannot argue with that.
I think we've said this earlier this year, but this dwarfs whatever we talked about earlier. This, I know we're always going to find a week that like, wasn't that the craziest weekend of football ever? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this may in fact be the greatest, craziest weekend of NFL football of all time, as declared by the World of Football podcast. You could book it, write it down, put it on your Instagram stories. I don't care, wherever you need to put it, because, good Lord, we got so much to talk about. Let's start off with the 49ers clinching the NFC West by defeating the Seattle Seahawks 21-13 on Thursday Night Football. I don't have a whole lot from this game. I didn't get to catch this game. I was out seeing the new Avatar movie. So I'll tell you what, though, the special effects and all the characters in Avatar looked way better than those Seattle Seahawks uniforms.
Oh, those were awful. The shocking green jerseys with the dark navy blue pants or whatever. Oh, my God. The only thing worse is if they'd been shocking green from head to toe. But, yeah,
when they're running around like Sharpies?
Didn't care for that look at all.
Yeah, so I didn't really catch any of that game. So I don't know if you had any thoughts or notes from that game. I know Brock Purdy came in. Brock Purdy seems like a decent quarterback there for the 49ers to keep them afloat as they go into the playoffs now, especially clinching that division. All right. Then we're going to move on. We had 3 games on Saturday, starting off with who would have saw this coming. I was checking the score all the time. I was excited because at one point during this game, the Indianapolis Colts, who were traveling up to Minneapolis to play the Vikings, were up 33-0. I believe it was halftime.
Yeah,
33
halftime.
to nothing.
A shutout.
Matt Ryan at quarterback for the Colts. The Colts just doing everything right. The Vikings doing everything wrong. Dramatic pause. Then the second half happened. And slowly the Vikings climbed back. Slowly that lead got smaller.
Inch
and
by inch,
smaller.
and step by step.
And smaller until the Vikings tied it up, sent it to overtime. And even then in overtime, it was like, oh my God, will this at least end in a tie? No, in fact, the Vikings would kick a game-winning field goal with like 3 seconds left on the clock to win the game in the largest comeback in NFL history, postseason, regular season, or otherwise. 32 points was the previous record.
Yeah.
They came back down 33 to win this game. As much as I hate the Vikings, and as much as it makes me mad that this helped them clinch the division this year, give them credit. That is persistence. That is, going to be the new ideal poster child of this is why you never give up, especially in the NFL, in any league, any sport. It can be done. You just have to, persevere. And the Vikings did it.
Yeah, the previous record, like you said, 32 points, was when the Buffalo Bills, led by Frank Reich, who was the coach that just got fired from the Colts earlier this year, came back and defeated the Houston Oilers in a snowy game up in Buffalo. So, yeah, I remember that game. And for years, that was the standard of the greatest, comeback, most points ever in a game. And now you've got this game.
An unbelievable game. Congratulations to the Vikings for that. Like I said, that clinched the NFC North for them.
Yep.
So the Vikings are playoff bound. Then we had it was a sandwich weekend. So you had a great game to start the weekend on Saturday. Sorry, a great game to start the Saturday. A great game to end the Saturday. And in the middle was just a turd because the Cleveland Browns defeated the Baltimore Ravens 13-3 in kind of a nothing burger game. I didn't catch any of this. It didn't sound exciting. So whatever. No. But then you had the Bills-Dolphins that night. Sorry, did I read the final score? 13-3, Cleveland over the Ravens. All right, then the Buffalo Bills squeaked by the Miami Dolphins in a blizzard, 32-29. Okay, it wasn't really a blizzard, but there was snow.
Yeah.
There were snowballs.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that.
The NFL actually had to come out and say, please stop throwing snowballs onto the field, everybody. And it was just crazy. Like I saw some great video of Buffalo fans trying to get to their seats, and it's just nothing but snow there in between the aisles, on the seats. Unbelievable. Then the one of my favorite things ever with snow games is when the offensive linemen go out there and clear off the snow for the kicker. So you saw all the Buffalo Bills players at the end of the game just
on their hands and knees, brushing wiping snow away.
So that was another great NFL snow game. Kudos to the Dolphins for making it a game.
Yeah.
One of the craziest touchdowns you'll ever... Was it? No, that was last week. That crazy. There was just so much to this game. I don't know how much you caught of this because this was
all I remember about this game was that the Bills wore the all red uniforms. I don't know if I'm a fan of that, but boy, they sure showed up on the snowy field. They were easy to find, so maybe that's why they did it. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, kudos to the Dolphins. A lot of people every time there's a warm weather team that goes up to a cold weather team.
Right.
I think Tua came out and said this week, like, we got snow in Alabama. Like, y'all need to just chill.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like these players haven't played in snow, but it's always that perception that gets me.
Sure, yeah.
But so Buffalo came away with that victory. All right, we're gonna move along a little quicker here. The New Orleans Saints on Sunday defeated the Atlanta Falcons 21-18. The Pittsburgh Steelers bested the Carolina Panthers 24-16. The Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Chicago Bears 25-20. And despite the loss, Bears quarterback Justin Fields becomes only the third quarterback in league history to rush for 1,000 yards. And those other two guys were?
Michael Vick in 2006 and Lamar Jackson, who did it twice in 2019 and 2020.
So a very impressive list of athletes. But I'd like to point out to the Bears fans I work with, how many Super Bowls did those guys win rushing for 1,000 yards at quarterback? Just saying. I mean, it can't hurt, but
sure. It's an impressive stat.
It hasn't helped.
It's just a stat. Look at the Bears' record. They've been eliminated for a while, and he's the only offense they've got. It seems like at times.
Yep. Speaking of eliminated, how about the Houston Texans giving a fight to the Kansas City Chiefs? We thought the Chiefs would be able to just walk all over the Texans, but the Texans put them in a dogfight. And the Texans, took them to overtime, 24-24 going in. But then the Chiefs just got one, few better playmakers than the Texans do, and they were able to come out with that win at the end of the game.
Now, the Texans did the same thing to Dallas last week.
They did.
They put a scare in them, and still lost, but boy, they played them well.
This Texans team's got fight in them. They give me a little bit of a reminder of the Lions team that we've seen last year. They were 3-13-1, and they had scrap, they had fight, but it would always come down to like one or two plays. Otherwise, this team could easily be way better than that record shows. So
Right.
don't sleep on the Texans.
Yeah.
They might have a heck of a team going forward. All right. The Dallas Cowboys found a way to lose against the Jacksonville Jaguars. How about this one? The Cowboys went into Jacksonville. They had control of this game for most of it, but the Jaguars climbed back in it. Trevor Lawrence is becoming a great NFL quarterback. He has ascended the last several weeks. Yeah, he had that rough game against Detroit, but you can start seeing the makings of one of the next top 3 quarterbacks in the league in Trevor Lawrence. I am just enamored with his play lately. And the Jaguars are on the ascent, and they got the win 40-34 in overtime off of a pick six. Just a great way, exciting way to win that game. And who saw that coming? That was one of the many crazy things this weekend. All right, then we're going to go back real quick. Let's take a moment here to revel in a Detroit Lions victory as the Lions defeated the New York Jets 20-17. Was it a pretty win? No.
This was a nail biter all the way to the last
pretty
kick
much.
of the game.
These two teams were pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
I mean, give the Jets credit. The Jets had a top 5 defense in the league. I think Jared Goff is only the second quarterback to get over 250 yards passing against that defense. And the Lions offense didn't score any points until, I mean, they had a couple field goals, but they didn't score a touchdown until the last 2 minutes of the game. That's, so it's really hard to score on that Jets defense. But the Lions defense, which has been bad, stepped up in certain spots. They would also go let a couple big plays go. But these two teams, they were almost mirror images of each other. And it came down to the Lions with a gutsy 4th down call, which on 4th and inches, you got a 51-yard touchdown. Unbelievable play. And then go for it.
Well, you were pointing out during the game, and I've seen analysts talking about it afterwards, that the Jets did not use any of their timeouts in the last couple minutes. They ran some plays, but they never called any timeouts to save some time. And
baffling.
I think that was the difference.
That
was the difference in it.
It came down to coaching there at the end, and I think had they called a couple of those timeouts, we could be talking about a game that could have gone to overtime, and who knows what would have happened then.
Yeah, they missed a 58-yard field goal, but had they used their timeouts, they could have gotten down maybe closer had they had a few more plays, and because I think that kick was long enough for 58 yards, but it was wide left.
Yeah,
it
was
first
wide left.
I thought it was short, but I do believe that after I saw it another couple of times that it was long enough.
Yeah.
But so we escaped with one there, and
but that's what the good teams do. I'm trying not to go.
We hung on to win.
I'm trying not to go full blue Kool-Aid, Honolulu blue Kool-Aid.
Right.
But this is what the Lions would be on the Jets end of this. It would be terrible stuff like that, and you would come up just that short against a good team. And it feels weird being on the other side of it. They've won 6 of their last 7 games. The Lions are at 500 for the first time since we saw them back in week 2 against the Washington Commanders.
They were 1-1.
They were 1-1 after we saw that game. And 7 games is the most games they've won in a season since 2017.
Yeah.
So this is, I won't say it's brand new for us, but it is an odd feeling. I'm in a position where I'm trying not to get all hyped up and be like, we're here, we're back,
right?
Or we've arrived. And
but they're in every game.
They're in every game, and
even a lot of the games they lost early in the season, they were in those games right to the very end.
And my mantra has been: the Lions win 6 games, I'll throw a parade. The last 2 years, that was what was my goal. Was let's at least get to 6 wins. I know we're a rebuilding team, so I did not expect them to go to the playoffs this year. The fact that they're even remotely close right now, they could technically lose out. And I wouldn't be that mad. I get it. They've gotten really close, and you know what? I think we're farther along in our rebuild than we think.
Yeah. Well, they got 3 games left.
3 games, winnable games.
If they win 2 out of 3, they'll have a winning record, whether they make the playoffs or not. Now, who would have seen this? This after last year's first season under Dan Campbell?
And that's a big leap from year 1 to year 2.
Absolutely.
And that would just give you a sign for hopefully year 3 would be the next big jump.
Right.
But shoot, I mean, people are already projecting them to get to the playoffs. They're already projecting the Lions to get a first-round win, depending on who they get lined up against. I'm not going that far. I'm one game at a time right now. But there's some scenarios. They could clinch a spot if they win 2 in a row.
I'm not thinking that far ahead. I'm looking
trying not
this
to
week
either.
against Carolina. We're going to be on the road for a second week in a row, but I think Carolina is a beatable team.
But they are also a scary team. They remind me of the Jets a little bit. They're a team that's also fighting for a playoff spot.
Yep.
They're a team that fired their head coach early in the year. They've kind of rallied around this assistant coach that's taking the reins for the team, and or interim coach, I guess rather, and we'll see. I'm not taking any game for granted, and I don't want to be that Lions fan. I mean, it's exciting. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But we'll see what happens. All right, moving on real quick. The Denver Broncos defeated the Arizona Cardinals 24-15 to eliminate the Cardinals from playoff contention. Didn't catch any of this. This was one of those games we both circled like, this is a snooze fest all over. No Russell Wilson, no Kyler Murray. What's the point?
Yeah.
And now it does make me curious to go to Hard Knocks and just see. That's 2 years in a row now that the in-season Hard Knocks teams have been eliminated in the playoffs, or before the playoffs. So, yeah, just what I think the NFL Hard Knocks needs to rethink their in-season portion of this.
Yeah, you were saying that you wanted to see it just to see how they handled the Kyler Murray getting injured the week before. So yeah. I have really no interest.
I know you don't. I haven't watched any of it. I haven't gone back yet. Time is a hard thing to come by nowadays. All right, and then in one of the craziest endings you will ever see to an NFL game, the Las Vegas Raiders defeated the New England Patriots 30-24. And the crazy thing is, this could have gone to overtime. This should have gone to overtime.
Yeah.
A simple run play, or I can't remember if it was a screen. It looked like, I think it was just a run play.
I think it started out as a run, and then
it turned into
lateraled it. He kind of like threw it over his head. I don't even think he was looking at the guy he was throwing it to. And then that guy took it, threw it way back to another guy that got intercepted, and
by a former Patriot player, who then steamrolled quarterback Mac Jones in one of the greatest images ever.
Put his hand on his face and just pushed him into the ground and ran over him and went untouched the rest of the way to the end zone. Oh my God!
It's one of the greatest highlights you'll ever watch. I think between that image of him pushing down Mac Jones with the stiff arm, between that and then the Arizona Cardinals player that dove into the end zone behind Andy Dalton in that Saints-Cardinals game earlier this year, are two of the greatest NFL images that have ever happened. That and Aaron Rodgers getting angry and like unsnapping his helmet in a fit of rage are my favorite things in the world.
Throwing an iPad.
There you go. Yeah, and then Tom Brady throwing iPads. It's great. Put this in the greatest football images Hall of Fame. But no, so it wasn't the play call. The play call was not designed to do the laterals. It was supposed to just be a run out the clock thing. But if that's the case, why aren't you kneeling it? If you know you're just going to run the ball to end the game or go to the overtime, why was the play call not a kneel? Is that on Matt Patricia, the offensive coordinator? God, I hope so, because that piece of crap, I laugh every time something goes wrong with the Patriots now, especially because of Matt Patricia's involvement in that offense. Congratulations to the Raiders for persisting and then following that through. What a freak end of the game. Yeah. I got a text saying, did you see the end of this game? And I said, no, why? Like, what could have happened? What possibly could have happened? And my imagination, my brain was not even prepared for what I watched. And when I saw this, I immediately got up and was like, what in the world did I just watch? Pure craziness. This is why the NFL is fantastic. All right, the Los Angeles Chargers defeated the Tennessee Titans 17-14. Tom Brady... Boy, oh boy, what happened to Tom Brady as the Cincinnati Bengals came back to defeat the Buccaneers 34-23. Every time it seemed like Tom Brady had some sort of miscue in this game after they were
four turnovers. He threw 2 interceptions. He fumbled the ball when he was being sacked or tackled behind the line of scrimmage, and I forget what the other one was. But yeah, they had 4 turnovers in the fourth quarter that just put them right back in the game, Cincinnati. And I don't know, wasn't it like something to nothing at halftime?
I thought it was 17-0 at one point.
Yeah, that might have been the halftime score, and then but yeah, the Cincinnati could do nothing in the first half, but Tampa Bay gave them every opportunity in the second half to win that game, and they took advantage of the opportunities that were handed to them.
Yep. All right, then on the Sunday night game, the New York Giants defeated the Washington Commanders 20-12. The big controversy from this game, officiating. I don't know if you saw it, the play where Terry McLaurin, the wide receiver for the Commanders, was lined up, looked over to the referee, and just to double check and make sure that he was positioned correctly, but I guess he was like 6 inches off the line.
Yeah.
And the referee supposedly either didn't say anything or he kind of non-verbally were like, yeah, you're good. It still threw the flag on. I don't know how true that is. in that situation, I think it's on the player. Look, if you're 6 inches off the line of scrimmage, and I don't know, just get lined up. To me, you've done this 1,000 times. Get lined up where you need to be. The referee shouldn't tell you, oh, hey, by the way, before the play starts, you're offsides. If you can't get lined up right, that's on you. So I don't know.
There were several games.
And then there was some pass interference call. There was one in that game that looked atrocious. Like, why was that not called?
Yeah, well, there were several games, and especially I'm thinking of the Lions game where there could have been penalty flags thrown on both sides of the ball, and they weren't calling a lot of them, and some of them I thought, like a guy starting, came out of his stance early, and they never called that, and just some other things that should have been roughing the passer or whatever, just a lot of bad calls by officials.
The inconsistency in officiating has been a problem for years in the NFL. I don't know what they need to do to clean it up. I do think it's hurting some of the product, and it's definitely. I saw a great meme, or if you want to call it that, just saying the NFL is no longer a sports league. It is an entertainment business because they are in the business of kind of fixing their own games. These officials are deciding these games unnecessarily. I think there's just times where I wish the NFL had some overarching step in and correct this call because this is atrocious. I get it. The refs are humans. They're going to make mistakes. I get it. But to let those mistakes determine the outcomes of games is not right. There's got to be something they can do.
Once again, I bring your attention to the Canadian Football League, where they can challenge penalties like pass interference.
But to me, I think this goes beyond a challenge of a penalty. I think this should just be the NFL having your command center there in New York or wherever the NFL headquarters is, New York City. You have 16 designated NFL official heads there. And as soon as they're watching the game along with the rest of us fans, as soon as something goes, that didn't look like a holding based on the replays I'm seeing, let me just buzz them real quick and be like, guys, let's take a look at that again. Let's talk through it and get the call right. Because there's times where you see a receiver getting locked up by a defender not getting called. I get it, you want to let them play, but there's times where it's more egregious than others, and it's not consistent.
Yeah, if it's really blatant, if everybody that's watching it on TV and everybody in the stands can see, yes, this was a penalty, something should be done about it. It is almost like professional wrestling. If somebody goes up on the edge of the ring and draws the official's attention, the referee's attention, while the other guy's beating the snot out of the
he pulls out the folding chair.
He never sees it. Yeah, and then he turns around. Oh, you got him pinned down. Well, he didn't know that the guy just got hit with a chair or something. So yeah, it's almost like football entertainment. You're right about that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I get it. I think Jimmy Johnson said it really well this week on The Herd. He said, look, teams have to play. You have to play, to the point where you don't let bad officiating affect your game.
Right.
There's going to be bad calls. There's going to be missed calls. It's just how good is your team to overcome those. And I get that, and I agree with that. But I do wish there's certain situations, you can even go back to that non-pass interference call back in the NFC playoffs. I think it was the Saints and Rams, where it was a clear pass interference, I believe, and nobody called it. It was baffling. Everybody saw it, and it determined the outcome of who was going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, early in the game, a lot of these calls don't matter, but towards the end of the game, it does affect the game quite a bit. You go back to the Lions Cowboys game a few years ago, playoff game, and pass interference was not called, and it was blatant that yes, there was pass interference on that.
Yeah,
we should have had the ball, but that was third or fourth down. I don't remember. So yeah,
it was. Yeah. So look, there will always be bad officiating. I just want to see it to where can we just knock it down a little bit so it's not so egregious. So we're not sitting there going, well, this team should have won because of this. We need to get beyond that. All right, last game of the week, real quick. The Green Bay Packers defeated the Los Angeles Rams last night, 24-12. Knocking the Rams out of playoff contention.
Yep.
So I didn't catch much from this game. It was pretty much a snooze fest.
I watched it. Yeah. It was a good game until halftime. Both teams. I think it was 10-7, 10-6 at halftime. I think. So yeah, it was anybody's game at that point. And then I don't think the weather affected it. The Rams played well in cold weather. They just couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
And Green Bay, that's their environment. So they were able to hang on. Green Bay didn't play great. and LA didn't play terrible. It's just that was the outcome.
Okay.
But if you want just a real quick recap, I've got the Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, Cowboys, Vikings, and 49ers that have all qualified for the playoffs now.
Yep, and then there are 5 teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs, from the Rams, the Texans, the Broncos, the Bears, and the Cardinals are your 5 eliminated teams,
Yep.
which means there's still a field of 21 teams still alive with 3 weeks left.
Wow, and you haven't mentioned Detroit yet being eliminated, so
It
that's
is
a
weird.
good thing.
It is a weird thing at the end of the year, but one of my favorite things to ever see on Twitter is the teams blowing up as soon as they're eliminated from the board.
Yeah,
I
haven't seen that this
I haven't
year.
seen that this year. I don't think they've done it, but I think we're looking at the same graphic from Fox, who put out the teams that are in and out. And hey, next week we're gonna have a bunch of teams drop off, so we're just one step closer to playoff football.
Yep.
All right, and that's it for the NFL scoreboard. And I guess we're gonna throw it over to Randy because I'm not sure what other scores we got this week. What else we got?
The bowl season is well underway.
Whoa, the bowl season.
We had a slew of bowl games this past
Already?
weekend. And it all started out last Friday night, the 16th of December, with the Bahamas Bowl. And it was UAB over Miami of Ohio, 24-20 in that game. That same night, the Cure Bowl featured Troy defeating University of Texas San Antonio, the Roadrunners, by the score of 18-12. So then the next day, on Saturday, there were, about 6 or 7 games. You had the Fenway Bowl, Louisville over Cincinnati, 24-7. The Jimmy Kimmel L.A. Bowl, Fresno State over Washington State, 29-6. The Las Vegas Bowl, Oregon State over Florida, 30-3. The New Mexico Bowl, BYU over SMU, 24-23. That was a really close game. The Lending Tree Bowl, Southern Miss over Rice, 38-24. And the Frisco Bowl, Boise State over North Texas, 35-32, another close game there. And then there was another game last night, Monday night, or I'm not sure what time it was played. It might have been during the day. But the Myrtle Beach Bowl, Marshall over Yukon, 28-14. And the fun just keeps going because there's 2 games being played today, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl and the Boca Raton Bowl being played today. And we'll have those scores next week. So now we're going to move on to some FCS semifinal action that happened last weekend. South Dakota State defeated Montana State 39-18, and North Dakota State defeated the University of Incarnate Word 35-32. And also at the FCS level, it was the Celebration Bowl, the HBCU Championship. North Carolina Central over Jackson State 41-34 in overtime. And I was surprised that last week, all the news was about Deion Sanders being, named head coach at Colorado, and he was over there, meeting the players and all this, and all of a sudden, last Saturday, he's back at Jackson State coaching the Celebration Bowl and losing. I think they lost their first game of the season. They were undefeated going into that bowl, and so a little bit disappointing for him, but he was there to see his team play in the Celebration Bowl. So that sets up the FCS championship game on January 8th. It's going to be North Dakota State versus South Dakota State in that game for the FCS title. All right, moving on to Division II. Their championship game was also played over the weekend. Number 1 Ferris State from right here in Michigan over number 2 Colorado School of Mines 41-14. It was the second straight national title for Ferris State, which is where your Uncle Bob went to school for a while after high school. And let's see, the Division III championship game, also known as the Amos Alonzo Stag Bowl. It was number 2 North Central of Illinois defeating number 1 Mount Union 28-21. Man, Mount Union has won so many Division III titles over the years. Normally if they're in the championship game, they're going to win it, but boy, they lost this year. North Central capped off a 15-0 season, winning their second national championship since 2019. Both teams were 14-0 going into this game, which was played in Annapolis, Maryland. And then when we move to the NAIA championship game, it was number 3 Northwestern of Iowa, the Red Raiders, over number 12 Kaiser Seahawks from Florida by the score of 35-25. This was the first NAIA championship for Northwestern since 1983, so a long time between titles there. Congratulations to them. In the junior college ranks, the NJCAA title, number 3, Iowa Western Reavers, which, if you didn't know, that's a river pirate, shut out the number 1 Hutchinson Blue Dragons 31-0 in a game that was played in Little Rock, Arkansas. It was Hutchinson's first loss of the season. They were number 1 going into the finals, undefeated, and lost to the Iowa Western Reavers. I had to look that up. I didn't know what a reaver was. Okay, let's see. And lastly, we have a score from Japan.
What?
Yeah, the College Football National Championship in Japan took place over the weekend. The Koshien Bowl 2022. And this comes to us from our man in Japan, Greg James.
You coined that, the man in Japan?
No, he put that out there.
Oh, okay.
But
you know what? Will it
I thought it was good,
existence,
so I'm stealing it.
friend?
I'm using it. Yeah, he's our man. I was going to say our roving reporter in Japan, but that works too.
Our Japan correspondent?
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah. World of Football representative on the other side of the ocean.
Great. Now you got to send him a hat.
It was the
with a little press tag in there.
It was the KG Fighters over the Waseda Big Bears, 34-17. Greg was at the game at Koshien Stadium in Kobe, Japan. I was doing a little reading about this. That stadium was built in 1924. It's basically a baseball stadium, but it's almost 100 years old. And used to be, up until 2 years ago, the college football champ would go on to play the winners of the X League, which is a corporate league over there in Japan. Mm-hmm. And I guess that ended in 2020. So KG Fighters is your 2022 Koshien Bowl champions over there. So thank you, Greg. He was at the game, posted a bunch of pictures on Facebook at the game, from the stands and everything, and looked like a really good weather. I think they were saying it was kind of cold and windy, but from the pictures, no snow on the ground, and it looked, beautiful sunny day. So great pictures from that. So thank you, Greg. Glad you had a good time at the College Football National Championship game over there. I'll bet the tickets were a lot more affordable than the ones that are going to be sold here in this country at the SoFi Stadium here in about a month. And that is it for this week's World of Football scoreboard. Now we're going to move on to some NFL news. Denver Stadium is getting a $100 million upgrade before the 2023 season, and I'm just wondering if they're going to take it out of Russell Wilson's signing bonus, because that's not a whole lot compared to what they paid him. A new video board that is 70% bigger than the current one is something that they're going to be installing. This will make it the fourth largest video board in the NFL. The suites will be refurbished for the first time since the stadium was built, and concessions on several levels will be added or upgraded, and an additional 3,000 square feet of space is going to be added to the team store in the stadium. What do you think about that? Denver Stadium getting a upgrade.
It looks. Some of the pictures look decent. I'm a little. Boy, they need to get away from this Broncos country. Let's ride BS. I saw that on some of the walls and stuff. Or at least just Broncos country, which I think you guys need to start leaning away from that. Russell Wilson's kind of tainted that for you. But hey, I'm all for teams upgrading their stadiums for their fans.
Sure.
We appreciate it. And I know, like, every renovation the Lions have done, I think has been for the best at Ford Field.
Right.
I've always loved Ford Field, and it's just become a more fun, cooler place to go for games. Mm-hmm. And all these teams make a crap ton of money, so why not upgrade everything?
Well, wasn't it just last week we had the story about
the Cowboys upgrade
the Cowboys Stadium for $295 million?
Yeah.
And it's only 13 years old.
I'd rather see these upgrades than, well, we're gonna I get it. Teams want new stadiums, but some of these stadiums, all they need is a great little renovation. Like,
sure.
Hey, just up, you got a great foundation. Just start putting in some of the new high-tech stuff, like the big screen TVs or the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, better Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah, or, all it's missing is the retractable dome or all these outdoor stadiums. But, or some of us that have domes, come on, Sheila. the Lions need a retractable dome.
I'd love to see retractable, opening it in the top of that
God, that would
stadium.
be great.
That would be so cool to, on a great August day, go over there and have the sun shining in.
Shoot, there's even days in September, October, November
yeah.
that'd be like, you know what? I'm glad the roof's open today.
Sure, yeah.
Then it hits December and we get 4 feet of snow and you're like, thank God the roof's closed
Close
today.
it and lock it till May. In some other NFL news, I didn't really catch this until you pointed it out to me, but the NFL Network has a new logo that they were debuting on Thursday Night Football, and it sucks.
No, it was the Saturday games because they had like all the Saturday slated games.
I thought it was on Thursday night.
The Thursday night's still
That's
Amazon.
right, 'cause I didn't see the Thursday night game. Okay,
But
yeah.
their new weird logo,
It's
just
ugly. It's stupid.
I don't know if that's just for their games or if that is the new NFL Network logo.
I don't know, but it's,
I'm surprised that's your news story. I love the hearing Randy's got to complain about a thing, so we're gonna put it in the news.
Hey, I complain about uniforms. I complain about changes mainly because I hate change. You know that.
I know.
And
Speaking
and
of
this was a
change,
change.
then do you hate that we're getting a new Superman and we're starting over the DC universe?
That's a whole different.
What are you mad about?
argument.
You said you hate change.
This is a football show.
And I like to inject a little bit of nerddom in here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what are sports people but a bunch of nerds too? I mean, me wearing a Batman T-shirt's no different than you wearing a Josh Allen jersey. It's it's the same thing.
Bite your tongue.
It's the same exact thing. I'm just saying.
I stand by what I said. The new, if that is their new logo for the NFL Network, it's awful.
And I still didn't answer my question about DC Comics, but I guess we'll talk about it off air.
Yeah. Okay, in some college news, this is pretty interesting. And again, you brought this to my attention.
I saw this. I was like, well, this has got to be one of the most interesting things.
Yeah, and you just sent me a quick picture and a little story under the picture, and I really had to look into this, but this is fascinating. Oregon tight end Cam McCormick received a 9th year of eligibility from the NCAA. And I'm thinking to myself, how is that possible?
Right, you see the headline, and
Right.
you get grabbed by the headline. I'm like, I know there's more to this. I just didn't have time to read or find
there was
the
no
article.
link on what you sent me. There's just
No,
a
it was
picture of
just
the guy.
because
It said Sports Illustrated.
You don't have Instagram,
Right.
so I just screenshot what I saw on Instagram.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I do this, so I will also remember to look stuff up later. But I was like, if anything, Dad will read it and fill me in on the podcast later, which is exactly what happened.
That's exactly
Now
what
fill
I'm doing
me in.
right
What
now.
happened?
Okay. McCormick has lost most or all of 4 different seasons for various reasons over the last couple of years, and the NCAA recently granted him a 9th year of eligibility. He will be playing in the Holiday Bowl on December 28th when Oregon takes on who are they playing? I forget. I had that. I didn't write it down, but they're playing in the Holiday Bowl this year, and he's going to be in it, and that's going to mark the end of his 7th season. In 2017, he missed a good portion of the season recovering from an illness, and if you can pronounce that name, I left it on there, but I can't even pronounce that. It's a word about 15 characters long.
Rhabdomyolysis?
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Rhabdomyolysis.
Whatever it was, I guess he and several of his teammates came down with this after a training session or something. So I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, he lost a good share of his season that year. Then he missed most of the 2018 season and all of 2019 and 2020 due to a broken ankle that required multiple surgeries.
Okay,
so that's like 3 seasons.
So
because
this
of an ankle injury.
rhabdomyolysis is a breakdown of muscle tissue that releases a damaging protein into the blood. The muscle tissue breakdown results in the release of a protein, myoglobin, into the blood. Myoglobin can damage the kidneys. So it is a rare condition. There are fewer than 200,000 U.S. cases per year. It is treatable by a medical professional. It requires a medical diagnosis. Lab tests or imaging always required. Short term, resolves within days to weeks. Critical, it needs emergency care. Thank you, Google search. Not a sponsor.
It says he missed a good portion of the 2017 season because of that illness. So glad he got over that. But then, okay, so recapping here, he lost most of 2018 and all of 2019, 2020 to a broken ankle, multiple surgeries. Then in September of 2021, he tore his Achilles in a game against Ohio State and missed the rest of the season. So, 2022 was his first full season in college football, which is going to end with the Holiday Bowl here on the 28th. So, my question is, would an NFL team actually want to draft this guy, knowing all the medical problems he's had so far?
Probably not. Probably not in the draft. Probably not in the draft. You might get some teams that'll at least give him a courtesy phone call to be like, "Hey, come in as an undrafted free agent,
right? Try
out, and we'll see what happens." If he, I think it's something that'll always be red flags, which is unfortunate, but that's just the nature of the NFL. Is a business after all, as we talked about earlier. It's a business, so they're going to go through your medical history with a fine-tooth comb, and if they think that this is not something that they want to deal with, look, this guy just gets hurt all the time. We can't be a we can't have that liability. Right. It's gonna be tough, but he'll at least get a look. Whether or not he's signed is a different story.
Yeah.
But
well, like I said, this is his seventh season, and he's got 9. So he could play college football for 2 more years. So, and he's not sure at this point if he's going to play next year or if he's going to play that 9th year. He might decide to go to the NFL draft after this season or maybe after next season. He's not sure, but to think that he's got 9 seasons of eligibility and he's on season 7, so he could be playing for 2 more years. It's just incredible, I think. Okay, well, let's move on from that story. But yeah, I'm gonna have to see how that turns out because I'm very curious to see what happens with him now. Let's see, Peyton's Places. I watched the newest episode, Season 3, Episode 8 on ESPN+. I watched this Sunday morning, and it was called Do You Believe in Miracles? And it started out with he and Herm Edwards they went to the house of a Giants fan who built a replica of the original Giants stadium in his garage. This thing was huge. He hand-glued all, 60,000 seats into the stadium. It's fantastic. But they were talking about when Herm Edwards, the Miracle in the Meadowlands, when he picked up that fumble from Joe Pisarcik. He was trying to hand the ball off to Larry Zonka, and they fumbled the snap, and Herm Edwards picked it up and ran it into the end zone. And they were just running out the clock, too, and so that was a real miracle. And it was interesting because I didn't know this. As they were talking about it, they said that at the time, there was no rule that said you could just kneel down and take a knee. That wasn't part of the rule book. It was after this happened, but at the time you had to run around a little bit and then just throw yourself down on the ground, and that's what Joe Pisarcik did before this last play. The play before that, he kind of stepped back a couple of steps, threw himself on the ground, and then one of his linemen threw another player on top of him. So there was like a scuffle and a fight between the two teams. What are you doing to our quarterback and this and that. So that's why they decided to actually run a play as opposed to try and do that again to end the game. And that's when the fumble happened, and that's when Herm Edwards picked the ball up and ran into immortality after that. So that was interesting. Interesting discussion. And it was cool to see this guy's stadium that he built. And then the other part of the show was Peyton and Vikings wide receiver Ahmad Rashad were at the Mall of America, which is where the original Vikings stadium, the Metropolitan Stadium, stood. And were you with us when we went there?
I've never been to the Mall of America.
Okay. The rest of the family went to the Mall of America several years ago. And I did find the spot where the original home plate was for Metropolitan Stadium. And this was a kind of a fun show because where he supposedly caught the pass, it was a famous play where it was a Hail Mary, and was it Tommy Kramer? Yeah, threw the pass, and it got popped up in the air about the 5-yard line or so, and it popped right into Ahmad Rashad's hands, and he just kind of stepped backwards into the end zone for them to win the game. And so supposedly, at least that's the way the story goes in the show, where he caught the ball is now a water ride, one of those log rides that you go down the thing and it splashes water all over the place. So, of course, Peyton threw a pass to him as he's on the log ride, So it was a fun show. So yeah, a really good episode this week. I learned a few things, and that's always a good thing because he's always talking about football history. So check out Peyton's Places. Been a really good season so far this season. This was season 3, episode 8, and a new one will be posted this coming Sunday. I think every Sunday
Christmas
morning.
Day. What a present.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple of birthdays today. December 20th. Excuse me. Wide receiver Bullet Bob Hayes was born on this date in 1942, and he passed away in 2002 at the age of 59. He played his college football at Florida A&M, and at the 1964 Summer Olympics, Hayes won a gold medal in the 100-meter race, tying the current world record time of 10.05 seconds, which earned him the title the world's fastest human. He also anchored the 400-meter relay team race that set a world record. He was selected in the 7th round of the 1964 NFL draft by the Dallas Cowboys. He was also selected by the Denver Broncos that same year. He played for the Cowboys from 65 to 74 and won Super Bowl VI with the team. He finished his 11-year NFL career with the San Francisco 49ers in 1975, and he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2009. And I was also reading today that he's the only person to ever win a Super Bowl and an Olympic gold medal. So, very interesting fact there. And the other birthday today, guard William Pudge Heffelfinger, born on this date in 1867. He died in 1954 at the age of 86. He played college football at Yale back in the very early days of college football, and he's recognized as the first pro football player. He was paid $500 by the Allegheny Athletic Association to play in a single game against the Pittsburgh Athletic Club. The game was played on November 12, 1892. Pudge scored the only points of the game when he recovered a fumble and ran 35 yards for a touchdown in a 4-0 win. That's because touchdowns were worth 4 points way back in the 1890s. Today, a page from the financial ledger of the Allegheny Athletic Club is on display at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, showing that he was paid $500 to play in that game, and that's their authentication for him being recognized as the first pro football player. Now, there might be others, and I'm sure there were others, but he's the first documented player to be a pro football player. Okay, and now we're going to move on to a couple of obituaries today. The first one is one that we mentioned last week. Mike Leach has passed away at the age of 61. Leach played rugby in college at BYU. He was currently the head coach at Mississippi State from 2020 to 2022. He was also the head coach at Texas Tech from 2000 to 2009 and at Washington State from 2010 to 2019. Over his career, he took his teams to 17 bowl games, winning 8 of them. The most recent was a loss in the 2021 Liberty Bowl. Leach also authored 2 books. One was an autobiography about his life and athletic career titled Swing Your Sword, Leading the Charge in Football and in Life, which was published in 2011. And his second book was called Geronimo, Leadership Strategies of an American Warrior, which was published in 2014. Leach also spent time working as an analyst at CBS College Sports Network and was a co-host on SiriusXM's radio show College Football Playbook.
All right, our second obituary is that of Gary Naffel, a wide receiver and tight end in the NFL for 10 seasons, has passed away at the age of 90. Naffel played college football at the University of Colorado and was selected in the second round of the 1954 NFL Draft by the Chicago Cardinals. He played in just one game for the Cardinals and was then traded to the Green Bay Packers. He played in Green Bay from 1954 to 1962 and won 2 NFL titles with the Packers in 1961 and 1962. He finished his playing career with the San Francisco 49ers in 1963. Naffel was inducted into the Packers Hall of Fame in 1976. He went on to be the public address announcer during Packers game at Lambeau Field from 1964 to 2004. And I just want to give everybody a heads up. You spell Mr. Naffel's last name Knafelc.
That's the way it's spelled.
That's what I'm saying. That's how you spell it. I'm saying Naffle. It sounds nothing like it's spelled.
I know.
I was just spelling it out for people.
I heard they were talking about him on the Packers game last night, and they mentioned him, and I thought, oh, so that's how you pronounce that name, because I saw the obituary earlier, and I was
saddled me with it, yeah.
pulling my hair out trying to figure out how do you pronounce that. It starts with a K.
I can't figure it out. I'll make Adam read it.
And they pronounced it Naffle, so that's how I told you to pronounce it. But yep. All right. I guess we are going on to this week's history lesson, unless you've seen anything we need to talk about.
Other than the breaking, I won't say breaking, but ESPN posted the 2023 college football recruiting rankings. For those of you who are interested in that, I was almost going to bring it up, but I was like, I guess maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in that sort of thing. Okay.
But our dear listeners just might, Randy. And what is the point of doing a podcast if not for the listeners? Nothing.
I don't know why.
Nothing.
I don't have an answer for that. All right, we're going to do this week's history lesson, and this is part 5 of our discussion of the greatest offensive and defensive unit nicknames in football history. And the first one on the list is the Cardiac Kids. Have you ever heard of this one?
No. I know the Cardiac Cats. That's what we call the Lions sometimes.
No. Well, the Cardiac Kids was a nickname given to the Cleveland Browns of the 1979 and 1980 season. They got the nickname because of their habit of playing a large number of games that went down to the wire, kind of like the Lions a lot of times. But 79, they had just an average season, but a lot of exciting games that came down the wire. In 1980, they made the playoffs, but then they lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Oakland Raiders. But 2 years of just insane games. I mean, I was reading some of the recaps of some of the games that, they would be way down and they'd come back to win, or they'd almost win, and so many games, decided within just a few points. So yeah, the Cardiac Kids, I remember them very vividly. 1979, 1980 Cleveland Browns. I'm sure you're familiar with this one, the Legion of Boom.
Yeah, that's probably the most notable defensive nickname in the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm. Seattle Seahawks secondary, early 2010s. On August 2nd, 2012, safety Cam Chancellor was a guest on a Seattle sports talk show, and fans were asked to suggest a nickname for the Seattle Seahawks secondary. The name Legion of Boom was suggested to the show by fans on Twitter, noting the way that the secondary brings the boom.
And sounds like the DC Comics Legion of Doom.
Yeah. But I didn't know that it was actually, suggested by fans on Twitter from a radio show host. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, you watched Seattle quite a bit.
I mean, shoot, yeah. They still talk about the Legion of Boom. I mean, that was an impressive group of guys back there. That was a team you did not want to play against when they were winning their Super Bowl. They were in the playoffs every year, and they were just at the height of their power. And as quickly as they rose, they fell off a cliff pretty fast. Or at least they got people got traded or went to different teams, so they disbanded pretty quick.
Well, the offenses get all the attention, but boy, if you don't have a decent defense, you're not going to go far. And that's why we're honoring a lot of these nicknames for offenses and defenses, because there are some great ones out there. In fact, the next one is all offense. It's Air Coryell. Are you familiar with this one?
That one sounds familiar.
The San Diego Chargers. Coach Don Coryell's offense with the Chargers from 1978 to 1986 was nicknamed Air Coryell after its coach and his pass-first approach. The record-setting offense led the NFL in passing yardage 6 straight seasons from 1978 to 1983, and again in 1985. San Diego led the league in scoring in 1981 and 1982 and averaged an astonishing 28 points per game during a 57-game span from 1979 to 1982. Some of the players included quarterback Dan Fouts, wide receiver Charlie Joyner, tight end Kellen Winslow, tight end Wes Welker, wide receiver Wes Welker, and wide receiver John Jefferson. The Chargers' offense gained more than 24,000 yards through the air from 1978 to 1983. That was an exciting team to watch. I mean, they didn't win a Super Bowl or anything, but man, were they putting up numbers. And they were kind of like the greatest show on turf before St. Louis came along and had that nickname. But man, oh man, what an offense! Great receivers. Dan Faust was a great quarterback back in the day, and that was a lot of fun to watch. I do remember watching some of those games. Okay, moving on. One more. The Doomsday Defense of the Dallas Cowboys. Have you heard of this one?
I have not.
Okay. The Dallas Cowboys defense of the late 60s and 70s was nicknamed the Doomsday Defense after leading the franchise to 5 Super Bowl appearances where they won 2 of them. Members of this group included Bob Lilly, Cliff Harris, Mel Renfro, Larry Cole, Chuck Howley, and Leroy Jordan. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you've got a great defense, you're going places. And Dallas had just an awesome defense that was, stopping people. Like I said, they went to 5 Super Bowls over the span of, I don't remember how many, but yeah, they won 2, but they went to 5 during the heyday of the Doomsday Defense. So that was an awesome collection of players they had on that defense. And finally, the Monsters of the Midway.
How was this not the first one you did?
Because it's the Chicago Bears. This was first used as the Bears' nickname in the early 1940s, but it reemerged in their 1985 Super Bowl run. But it's never really gone away. I mean, to this day, when you say the Monsters of the Midway, you know exactly who they're talking about. You're talking about the Chicago Bears. And so, yeah, this is something that's always been around.
It's something that they still get referred to as. So that's a great, powerful nickname. Whenever I hear that, immediately I go, the stinking Chicago Bears.
And if and when they really get everything together and they start winning some games and going to the playoffs on a regular basis, you may hear that again. Right now, like we said earlier today, really the only offense they've got, it seems like, is Justin Fields. So not much of a monster of the Midway, but
but that day they reemerge. I mean, that nickname's going to come back.
Yep, just like the pack is back. As soon as they start winning, they're going to bring back all these cliches and whatnot. So just to recap today's show, we had the Cardiac Kids of the Cleveland Browns, Legion of Boom with the Seattle Seahawks, Air Coryell of the San Diego Chargers, the Doomsday Defense of the Dallas Cowboys, and the Monsters of the Midway, the Chicago Bears. And just a real quick recap of the other ones we had. In part 1, we featured the 4 Horsemen of Notre Dame, and the 7 Mules, which was their offensive line, the 7 Blocks of Granite from Fordham, the New York Sack Exchange of the New York Jets, and the $1 Million Backfield. In part 2, it was our colorful edition, where we talked about Gang Green of the New York Jets, the Big Blue Wrecking Crew of the Giants, the Silver Rush of the Detroit Lions, the Purple People Eaters of the Minnesota Vikings, and the Orange Crush defense of the Denver Broncos. Part 3, we featured the Fearsome Foursome, the Hogs, the No-Name defense of the Dolphins, the Grits Blitz of the Atlanta Falcons, and the greatest show on turf of the St. Louis Rams. And then finally, last week, it was the Steel Curtain of the Steelers, the Pony Express of SMU, the Electric Company of the Buffalo Bills, the Over-the-Hill Gang of the Washington Redskins, and the Killer Bees of the Miami Dolphins. So a lot of great nicknames out there for I couldn't really call it team nicknames because, people would have thought, like Lions and Bears and Buccaneers. No, these were offensive and defensive unit names. So a lot of fun looking up some of these. A lot of them, of course, I remember, but I didn't necessarily know the story behind how they got their name and all that. And I thought it would be a good education for you because I figured you hadn't heard.
For me,
Yeah. All right, moving on to our upcoming events calendar. Saturday, December 21st, we have 2 semifinal games at the FBS level. It's the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl featuring number 1 Georgia and number 4 Ohio State. That game is being played in Atlanta. And also that day, the Fiesta Bowl, number 2 Michigan versus number 3 TCU in Glendale, Arizona. January 8th, the NFL regular season comes to an end. Also on January 8th, the FCS championship game in Frisco, Texas between North Dakota State and South Dakota State. Monday, January 9th, the College Football National Championship game at SoFi Stadium. And finally, Sunday, February 12th, Super Bowl 57 in Glendale, Arizona.
It'll be here before we know
Oh,
it.
man, it sure will be. Yeah. All right. Anything before we bring the show to an end?
Nope, I'm all good. We covered a lot today.
Yeah. Yeah, more than I thought. But that's the way it goes sometimes. All right, well, that's all the time we've got for this week. If you learned something during this podcast about the incredible amount of diversity that exists in the world of football, then we've done our job. Visit our website at theworldoffootball.com for news, links, upcoming events, original articles, videos, and more. Our email address is info@theworldoffootball.com.
Go ahead and like The World of Football. We're over on Facebook.
I dare you.
At The World of Football. Excuse me. You can also follow our Twitter account. The address is at TWOF Kalamazoo. New episodes of this podcast are posted on Tuesdays and are available on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and you can find the full audio version of this podcast on YouTube. Speaking of which, you can search for our YouTube, The World of Football Kalamazoo. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave comments on all our videos, and come be a part of the football conversation over there because, why not?
And remember, folks, some people may love football more than we do, but nobody, and I mean nobody, loves more football than the two of us in this room. Until next time, I'm Randy Snow.
And let's see, I guess we got to find a hat with a little press tag in it to send over to Japan.
Wonder how much that'll cost.
And not my problem. That's a business expense. That's all you, buddy.
We'll see you all next week.